both on the PR side and on the demographic. I don't know what to do about the retiring demography. I don't know what to do about 7 million able-bodied men choosing not to work.
For years, Mike Rowe, the beloved host of Dirty Jobs, has been a familiar face in American homes. A man who celebrated hard work, grit, and the everyday heroes who keep the world running. His calm charm, sharp wit, and deep respect for working people earned him a loyal following and made Dirty Jobs one of Discovery Channel's biggest hits. But behind the dirt, sweat, and laughter, there was something the network didn't want anyone to know. Something Mike himself has finally decided to reveal. Mike's career wasn't built in Hollywood boardrooms or celebrity circles. He was the voice of the working class, the man who'd crawl through mud, climb towers, and clean sewers to show America what real labor looked like. Yet even as fans loved him for his authenticity, Discovery executives were growing uneasy. The show's original message, to honor workers and challenge stereotypes, was slowly being reshaped to fit corporate interests. Now, after years of silence, Mike Rowe has spoken out, not in anger, but in truth. He's finally confirmed what many long suspected, that there was a deep conflict between his mission and the network's image. He claims Dirty Jobs wasn't just canceled because of ratings. It was silenced because of what it exposed. In this video, we uncover what Discovery allegedly tried to keep from the public. The hidden reason behind Dirty Jobs' abrupt end, the quiet battles Mike fought off camera, and the shocking truths he's only now ready to share. Before he became one of television's most recognizable faces, Mike Rowe was just a regular guy from Baltimore, Maryland, with a deep voice, an endless curiosity, and an appreciation for honest work. He didn't come from money or privilege. Instead, he grew up in a family that valued humility and hard effort. His grandfather, a master electrician, and his father, a teacher, were both men who worked with their hands and took pride in doing things the right way. Mike often says that his grandfather could fix anything, and that his only regret in life was not inheriting that same gift. Mike's path to fame wasn't straightforward. After studying communications, he began his career in the early 1990s, doing voiceover work, commercials, and hosting smaller shows. He was talented, but not an overnight success. For years, he bounced between odd TV jobs, from QVC, where he sold random products with humor, to narrating educational programs and documentaries. But his big break didn't come until he decided to create something truly different, a show that didn't glamorize fame or fortune, but instead honored the unsung heroes who built and maintained America. That idea became Dirty Jobs. In 2003, Discovery Channel greenlit the concept, and no one, not even Mike, had expected it to become a cultural phenomenon. The show followed him as he took on some of the most grueling, disgusting, and dangerous jobs imaginable. From cleaning septic tanks to working in coal mines, Mike didn't just observe. He got his hands dirty, shoulder to shoulder with real workers. What made Dirty Jobs special wasn't the shock factor. It was the respect. Mike never mocked the people he worked with. Instead, he highlighted their skill, patience, and dedication. The show's raw honesty resonated deeply with viewers who felt Hollywood had long forgotten about them. Here was a man on national television who said, "These are the people who keep the world running." The show became a massive success for Discovery Channel, running for nearly a decade and reaching millions of viewers in over 180 countries. Fans loved Mike's humor and humility, and workers across America saw him as one of their own. But behind the scenes, something darker was brewing. Discovery Channel was thrilled with the ratings, but increasingly uncomfortable with the message. Dirty Jobs wasn't just entertainment. It was a commentary on how modern society undervalued manual labor. Mike was openly critical of how schools and culture pushed young people toward expensive college degrees while ignoring the value of trade work. He spoke about the skills gap, warning that America was running out of welders, plumbers, and electricians, the very people the country depended on. These comments, though true, started to ruffle feathers at Discovery's corporate headquarters. Sponsors and executives wanted the show to stay lighthearted, focusing on the fun and gross-out moments, not social or economic issues. But Mike refused to tone it down. For him, Dirty Jobs wasn't just about crawling through filth. It was about restoring dignity to real work. By 2012, tensions between Mike and the network had quietly escalated. Despite the show's popularity, Dirty Jobs was suddenly canceled without a clear explanation. Discovery claimed it had run its course, but fans were shocked. Ratings were still strong, and Mike himself seemed blindsided. He later hinted that the decision had less to do with ratings and more to do with control. "I never got a straight answer," Mike once said. "But I knew the truth. Dirty Jobs wasn't canceled because people stopped watching. It was canceled because it started making people think. The man who made America laugh while knee-deep in mud had accidentally uncovered something bigger. A cultural truth that some powerful people didn't want exposed. And as Mike would soon reveal, Dirty Jobs' end was only the beginning of his battle with Discovery. When Dirty Jobs was abruptly canceled in 2012, millions of fans were left stunned. The show wasn't just popular, it was one of Discovery Channel's highest-rated programs, drawing in a loyal audience that spanned generations. Viewers weren't ready to say goodbye to Mike Rowe or the honest, hard-working Americans he showcased. But the official explanation from Discovery, that the show had simply run its course, didn't add up. And as time passed, the truth began to surface. According to Mike, the end of Dirty Jobs had little to do with ratings and everything to do with philosophy. What had started as a light-hearted look at unusual occupations had evolved into something deeper, a social statement that challenged how the world viewed work, education, and success. That message, while inspiring to millions, wasn't something the network wanted to promote. In interviews years later, Mike revealed that behind the scenes, Discovery executives had begun pushing for changes to make the show less serious and more digestible. They wanted more gross-out moments, more laughs, and fewer conversations about America's broken relationship with work. But Mike refused to compromise. For him, the show's mission was sacred. It wasn't about being funny or shocking, he explained. It was about showing that hard work isn't something to be ashamed of. That resistance didn't sit well with corporate leadership. Mike's growing popularity had made him a powerful voice, one that wasn't easy to control. He had begun using his platform to speak openly about the skills gap, criticizing the education system for steering kids away from trades and into debt. He warned that the obsession with 4-year degrees was creating a shortage of essential workers. Discovery, however, wasn't interested in controversy. Sponsors began to express discomfort with Mike's increasingly outspoken tone. They wanted a TV personality, Mike later said, not a guy who might make people question the system. Behind closed doors, producers were told to steer the show away from politically sensitive territory, but Mike didn't back down. In one particularly tense meeting, he reportedly told executives, "I'm not here to make people feel good about the status quo. I'm here to show them reality, even if it's dirty." Not long after that, Dirty Jobs was quietly canceled. No farewell episode, no official statement from Mike, just gone. The network moved on to flashier, more commercial shows, leaving fans confused and disappointed. But the decision didn't silence Mike. If anything, it only fueled him. In the years that followed, Mike began revealing more about what really happened. He explained that Discovery had started editing episodes differently toward the end, cutting out the more heartfelt or thought-provoking moments. Some of his candid conversations with workers about wages, job pride, and America's labor crisis were reportedly never aired. "We'd film these incredible stories," he said, "but they'd never make it past the final cut." The parts that mattered most were being buried. The deeper issue, Mike suggested, was that Dirty Jobs had become too real. It wasn't just entertainment. It was a mirror reflecting uncomfortable truths about society. It showed how disconnected many Americans had become from the people who built their homes, fixed their power lines, and cleaned their streets. And in doing so, it reminded audiences that the real backbone of the country wasn't found in boardrooms or on red carpets. It was found in workshops, factories, and fields. Discovery's executives, however, wanted escapism, not introspection. And when Mike refused to turn Dirty Jobs into something hollow and commercial, they pulled the plug. Looking back, Mike said the decision didn't surprise him. The show was never supposed to be safe, he reflected. It was supposed to be honest, and sometimes honesty makes people uncomfortable. But even though Dirty Jobs ended, Mike's mission didn't. In fact, its cancellation only strengthened his resolve. He soon took matters into his own hands, starting his own foundation, launching independent projects, and exposing even more about what Discovery tried to hide. What came next would change his career and his message forever. After Dirty Jobs was taken off the air, Mike Rowe could have easily walked away from television altogether. He had made his money, earned his fame, and could have retired comfortably. But that's not who Mike Rowe is. The end of Dirty Jobs wasn't just a career setback for him. It was a wake-up call. It proved that if he wanted to keep spreading his message about the value of hard work, he'd have to do it on his own terms, without corporate control. That realization led to the birth of the Mike Rowe Works Foundation, a non-profit organization with one mission: to close America's widening skills gap and bring respect back to blue-collar professions. Mike didn't just talk about the problem, he started doing something about it. He began offering scholarships to students who wanted to pursue trade and technical training, not traditional four-year degrees. His foundation's motto, "Work hard and smart," became more than a slogan. It became a movement. Mike started traveling across the country, visiting trade schools, small businesses, and job sites. He met welders, mechanics, plumbers, and electricians, all of whom told him the same story. They couldn't find enough young workers willing to learn the trades. America was producing too many college graduates drowning in debt and too few skilled laborers to keep the country running. Mike's foundation started awarding the Work Ethic Scholarship, offering thousands of dollars to people willing to get their hands dirty and learn practical, essential skills. What shocked many was how quickly the foundation grew. Not because of corporate sponsors, but because of ordinary Americans who believed in his message. But not everyone was pleased. Behind the scenes, Mike's activism drew quiet criticism from the same industry executives who once benefited from his success. Some media outlets accused him of oversimplifying the issue or pushing a working-class agenda. Others tried to twist his words, suggesting he was anti-college or politically motivated, claims Mike firmly denied. "All I ever said," he explained, "is that there's more than one path to success. We shouldn't shame kids who want to work with their hands." As Mike's influence grew, he began speaking out more openly about how Dirty Jobs had been shaped and, in his view, censored by Discovery Channel. He revealed that the show had been quietly edited to remove certain interviews and discussions about education, wages, and labor shortages. "We filmed moments that really mattered," he said, "but they didn't fit the narrative." In response, Mike decided to take storytelling back into his own hands. He started producing independent web series and podcasts, shows like Returning the Favor, where he traveled across the country highlighting unsung heroes who make a difference in their communities. The project was a huge hit, not because of marketing, but because it felt real. There were no scripts, no network executives hovering over his shoulder, just Mike and the people who inspired him. Returning the Favor racked up millions of views online and earned widespread praise for restoring faith in humanity at a time when cynicism dominated the headlines. Fans said it felt like Dirty Jobs had been reborn, only this time Mike had full creative freedom. In interviews, he made it clear that this new chapter wasn't about revenge or bitterness toward Discovery. "It was about truth. They didn't silence me," he said. "They just reminded me why my voice mattered." Through his foundation, Mike also began collecting data and testimonies from trade workers, exposing a growing crisis that few major networks dared to address. Skilled labor shortages were getting worse, and millions of well-paying jobs were going unfilled. He warned that if America didn't start respecting the trades again, the country's infrastructure, both physical and social, would crumble. Mike's honesty resonated deeply with people who felt forgotten. Veterans, single parents, young adults, they all reached out to him, saying that his message had given them hope and direction. In many ways, Mike had become something much larger than a TV host. He was a voice for the voiceless, an advocate for real Americans who worked hard, got dirty, and rarely got credit. By exposing what Discovery tried to hide, that the real story was about dignity and purpose, not ratings, Mike Rowe had created something far more powerful than a TV show. He had sparked a movement that was changing lives, but as his influence grew and his message spread across the country, Discovery wasn't done with him just yet. What happened next would prove that telling the truth on television still comes with a cost. After years of silence, Mike Rowe finally decided to speak openly about what really happened between him and the Discovery Channel, and why Dirty Jobs, one of the most beloved shows on television, came to such an abrupt and confusing end. It started innocently. In a candid interview on his podcast, The Way I Heard It, Mike revealed details that fans had long suspected but never confirmed. He explained that during the final seasons of Dirty Jobs, tension between him and network executives reached a breaking point. Discovery wanted the show to evolve into something glossier, more scripted, less real. But Mike refused. He told them, the whole point of Dirty Jobs was to show what real people do when no one's watching. If we fake it, the message dies. That honesty didn't sit well with the executives. Ratings had dipped slightly, and Discovery wanted more drama, more controversy, something they could sell easily to advertisers. Mike pushed back. We weren't making a reality show, he said. We were documenting reality itself. But behind the scenes, he began noticing something strange. Entire episodes were quietly pulled. Some were re-edited, others shelved without explanation. Segments where workers openly discussed long hours, low pay, or unsafe conditions mysteriously disappeared from the final cut. One particular episode about coal miners in West Virginia, Mike revealed, was never aired at all. It was powerful, he said. We talked about the decline of American energy jobs and what that meant for the families who depended on them. But Discovery decided it was too political. According to Mike, this was when he realized that Dirty Jobs wasn't just being canceled, it was being controlled. The truth, it seemed, had limits on television. When the show finally ended in 2012, Discovery released a brief statement citing creative exhaustion, but Mike later admitted that wasn't the whole truth. He said the real reason was creative conflict, his refusal to let the show become another scripted reality series. Discovery wanted fake tension, he explained. They wanted to turn hardworking people into caricatures. I couldn't let that happen. Years later, when Discovery approached him to reboot Dirty Jobs, Mike agreed. But on one condition, full creative control. The network reluctantly agreed. And in 2022, Dirty Jobs returned, this time with Mike making sure the stories stayed raw, honest, and unfiltered. But even with the revival, Mike couldn't ignore how much had changed in television. He admitted that the industry had lost its connection with everyday Americans. They want polished influencers, he said, not guys covered in grease who actually build things. Fans rallied behind him. His podcast exploded in popularity, his foundation thrived, and his new independent shows gained millions of loyal viewers. But perhaps the most emotional moment came when Mike finally addressed the workers themselves, the people who had made Dirty Jobs possible. In a heartfelt video message, he said, the real heroes were never on billboards. They were the people doing the work no one else wanted to do, and for years the network tried to make that look small. But it wasn't small. It was everything. Those words struck a chord. Across social media, former Dirty Jobs participants shared their stories, confirming much of what Mike had said. Some even revealed that Discovery crews had told them to redo scenes or avoid talking about their financial struggles. They wanted us to smile through it, one worker wrote. But Mike wanted the truth. In the end, Mike Rowe didn't just expose a hidden truth about Dirty Jobs. He exposed something deeper about modern entertainment. Television, he argued, had forgotten who it was supposed to serve. The networks want viewers, Mike said. But viewers want honesty. And that's the one thing corporate media can't control. Today, Mike continues to champion that honesty. Through his foundation, his podcast, and his independent projects, he's built something no network executive can cancel, a legacy based on truth, humility, and respect for real work. The secret discovery tried to hide wasn't about scandal or controversy. It was about something far simpler and far more powerful, that dignity. Purpose and pride still exist in America's workforce, if only someone is willing to show it. And in the end, that's exactly what Mike Rowe did. He turned a canceled show into a national conversation, proving that sometimes the dirtiest jobs reveal the clearest truths.